Burrell Ellis, your CEO. We have been talking a lot about a concept of ONE DeKalb. We have a stakeholders report that is seeded. I forgot to mention this at our town hall meeting the other night, but I hope you all take this home and get a chance to look at this hot off the press. We did an advanced copy earlier this year, but this is the final copy, our 2011 to 2012 stakeholders report. And really what the concept of ONE DeKalb represents is the common thread that unites us as a community. It's an intentional effort for us to focus on the good that is being accomplished, even in the midst of sometimes very difficult times that we are all living and surviving and thriving through. And the reason that we're here tonight, we're not here because it's budget season. We're not here because something's happened or gone wrong. We're here because if we're going to have that united spirit, that ONE DeKalb, it's important that you hear from me and that I continue to hear from you. So this is a part of our ongoing face-to-face conversation, something I started when I campaigned for this office, something I promised when I got elected that I would govern the way that I campaigned. Sometimes we've done it in homes. Those homes get kind of crowded and tight. So we think it's important that we get out into community settings and buildings. And so you can see some of the things we've accomplished. Tonight, we're at the Community Achievement Center. And this is an example, just one example of a public-private partnership that we have with the community organizations, Delta Sigma Theta and Kappa Alpha Psi. It always hurts me to say that, Ms. Adams. Not the Delta part, the Kappa part. Larry, come help me. Because while that's not our fraternity, it still is all about the same thing. It just means that we've got to challenge all of our fraternal and sorority organizations to step up to the plate to do what the Kappas and the Deltas have done. But they come in here, they're putting the resources in a county facility and running programs for seniors and for youth and for everybody in between. And so I applaud the Kappas and the Deltas. And I'm going to have a conversation with, a lot of people don't know, I'm Alpha A-Phi-A. For anybody who keeps track of those kind of things, some of you, many of you probably know Skip Mason, who lives right here in DeKalb County, who is national president of A-Phi-A. And so we're very proud of Skip. And so I'll be having a conversation. I saw his bride yesterday. And I'll be having a conversation with Skip about challenging my fraternity. And I'm not going to even say, I'm going to give you some Iota Phi Theta. And I know what you used to be called. They were formed on Morgan State University's campus in Baltimore, Maryland. So we're all taking on that challenge. But to hear tonight, I wanted to share with you some of the things that are going on in your county. A lot of it is good news about things that are going on. And then I want to hear from you. We're started pretty much on time, and we're going to end on time. We've got to be out of here right about 8:30. I want you to know that we are doing some things to make sure that we're spending and utilizing, I shouldn't say spending, but utilizing the resources that you gave us, some of which includes money, in a wise and responsible way. In 2001 and 2006, the citizens of DeKalb County passed bond referendums which made available monies for libraries and roadway improvements and park improvements. Some of that money for a while sat in a pot while we figured out what to do. But we've been using that money. And what you've seen, and I hope you've been paying attention, is 8 new or improved libraries. We have 11 new or improved parks and recreation centers, facilities just like we have here at the Community Achievement Center. A number of roadway improvement projects, including our streetscape projects on Memorial Drive and Cameron Road and Buford Highway and Wesley Chapel Road intersection. And so we're seeing that our roadways are being improved and our streetscapes. We have a number of partnerships that we're using to leverage those resources, such as a new YMCA that the county is building on county property at Waymarker Park, our largest park, and then we're partnering with the YMCA, and they're going to run the facility at a discount to the DeKalb County citizens. It's going to have both an indoor and an outdoor pool and some really phenomenal attractions to it. And it's going to be, in some ways, modeled like the East Lake Y, but even better. So that opens next summer, so we'll be watching for that. Out on 124 at Bransby Park. Some of y'all may be old school. You remember me. We're doing some improvements to that park. We're going to create a roller park there, including a soapbox derby track and BMX and some things there. So that's a very exciting project. So I may be leaving some things out, but we're trying to improve the quality of life for our citizens. And why? Because we know that the best recovery from this recession will be that we responsibly use the resources that we have at our disposal right now to continue to upgrade and improve the quality of life. And that means, to some extent, the things you see, but also the things you don't see. And one of the things we'll be doing is to upgrade our water and sewer system by $1.4 billion over the next 8.5 years. Now, you don't always see the water and sewer pipes and the wastewater treatment centers systems, but what they do is they ensure that we have safe, clean drinking water, that we can bathe in the water, that we can flush our toilets. It's a basic human necessity. And it's the way we ensure that we provide for the next generation. A lot of our pipes are old. Most are older than 25 years. Anybody here older than 25 years old, raise your hand, admit it, okay? All right. You know, some of y'all don't raise your hands. And some of our pipes are older than 50 years old. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand if you're over 50 years old. But I am slightly over that hump. And I know what happens when you get over 50. Some things begin to break apart. And so we have to continue to provide and invest and put the resources in. Amen? Okay. Well, it's all right. It's all good. And we have to continue to put resources in so that we can ensure that we have quality of life. So there's the things that we see that are coming out of the ground, and sometimes there's the infrastructure that you don't see that goes into the ground. And so those are some of the good things that are happening. Out of that, though, is some good news. Last week, we had a major announcement about how we're converting landfill gas. And we're already taking that landfill gas and creating or converting it into an energy source. We're creating electricity and we're selling it to Georgia Power, which is good for the planet, but also bringing revenue into the county. And last year, we did a groundbreaking for a new facility where we'll be taking that landfill gas and converting it into automobile fuel. And within 3 years, all 306 of our sanitation vehicles will be fueled by compressed natural gas from the landfill. We're converting trash to cash to gas, okay? That's clean, that's green, and that's fiscally responsible. And so that's good news. We're going to be a model for the nation. That alone ought to be enough, Mr. Presiding Officer, to get the President of the United States here. And we're working on that, okay? So to get President Obama here in the spring so we can see what we're doing. But we're not going to stop there. Earlier this week, yesterday in fact, we announced a new housing initiative under our ONE DeKalb Lives umbrella. We've already announced initiatives where we're making down payment assistance programs available to our veterans and other working families. Earlier this year, we announced our Get Home Now program, where we are making mortgage loans available on foreclosed properties to families who would not otherwise qualify for mortgages, and they're going into those families, renovating those homes, stabilizing communities. We were first in line in terms of getting federal money, over $23 million in stimulus money for the Neighborhood Stabilization Program, which is also renovating homes and neighborhoods and targeting certain neighborhoods, like the Hidden Hills community, where there were a record number of foreclosures. We're third in foreclosures in the state here in DeKalb County, behind Gwinnett and Fulton counties. And so we are addressing the problem, that issue here, that problem. But our newest initiative, the Good Neighbor Next Door program, actually is targeted to help and provide homes for firefighters, police officers, and teachers, bringing them back into the community in foreclosed homes. And they are eligible, Chris Morris, this is our champion over here, to get those homes at a 50% discounted value. So how about that? Home yesterday foreclosed. Tomorrow we'll have not only a family, but a community hero, a firefighter, a first responder, a police officer, a school teacher living right there. And the interesting thing is, when we announced the program yesterday, a neighborhood was picked by Chris and her group where a DeKalb County police officer had actually purchased a home and moved in the community. And so we're headed out there because we did the announcement in front of the home, at the officer's home. I said, well, where are we going? And when I found out where we were going, it turns out we were going to my neighborhood, okay? These are quality homes is what I want you to know, not just my neighborhood, but we're partnering with Citizens Trust Bank. A lot of these initiatives are the results of good relationships with the Obama administration on the federal level and partnerships with the private sector and community organizations. So partnership is really at the heart, and responsible use of your resources is at the heart of everything we're doing. So it turns out that it was my neighborhood, and I said, how many people here would like to own a home in this neighborhood? And all the hands went up. I said, how many people here actually already live in this neighborhood? And Commissioner Barnes-Sutton was to my left, and so she raised her hand. She owns a home in the neighborhood. The school board chair, Tom Bowen, was to my right. He was there because of the partnership with teachers. He raised his hand because he lives in the neighborhood. I asked the bank president, Mr. Jim Young from Citizens Trust Bank, to come up and bring a few words. He informed us that both he and his vice president live in that neighborhood and own homes. And so this is exciting news. It really is. Quality homes made available to first responders and to school teachers at a 50% discounted value, and we'll be doing 40 a month. And is that the goal? And to get more information, DeKalbCountyGA.gov, is that where you can get the information? The Good Neighbor Next Door program. So if you know a police officer or a first responder, and there's a vacant home, and well, you can go and see the list of properties every week.
Every 7 days, there's a new list of properties that's available.
Okay, every 7 days. I want to repeat what she said. Chris is our Director of Community and Human Development. Yeah, that's right. Chris has served with every CEO in the DeKalb County government that's been a CEO in the DeKalb County government. And I think you started back when Thomas Jefferson was chairman of the board. No. Who was the first chairman? Who was the first chairman that you worked under? Bob Gould. I was going to say that. Bob Gould was a Republican in DeKalb County, chairman of the Board of Commissioners. And so everybody knows Chris Morris. Knows about more than one name. I think you had another name back in those days. Is that right?
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah, I remember those days. And so, wonderful program. Again, an example of a public-private partnership to put our citizens in homes and to stabilize communities. But we're not going to stop there. Next week, another major announcement. I mentioned the $1.4 billion water and sewer updates and upgrades that we're doing to that system. Well, we're paying for that, obviously, in our water rates. Still competitive with other neighboring jurisdictions. But we're all being asked to do a little bit more. But we also know that our people need jobs, and they need to get back to work. And we're going to go out, and the Board of Commissioners and I are going to make decisions to hire vendors, engineering firms, and construction firms to dig up the streets and lay the new pipes and to fix the wastewater treatment plants. And when we hire those contractors, we want to make sure that we not only implement our local small business enterprise program. That's a program that I'm proud to have authored as a county commissioner. It's a program designed to make sure that local small businesses, especially DeKalb County-based businesses, are eligible for the work that we do in DeKalb County. But when I became CEO, one of the biggest complaints I heard from those smaller business vendors is that I got selected, but I never really got much work. Sometimes they didn't get any work. And so we realized we need to do a better job of monitoring that program. And so we're bringing in a national partner, a name you'll know and trust. Just be watching next week. And that partner is going to come in, and they're going to be doing the monitoring to ensure that local DeKalb County-based businesses, under our ordinance that we already have in place, are not only getting the work, but they'll be able to do the work. And that's good news, but it doesn't stop there. We also want to make sure that those vendors, once they're selected, and our Chief Procurement Officer, Kelvin Walton, has just walked in, and he's going to make sure that this happens. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We're going to make sure that DeKalb County citizens are the first to be hired to do that work under our DeKalb First Source ordinance. Is that right, Commissioner? Are you the author of that ordinance? Commissioner Johnson authored that ordinance. And under that ordinance, it means that DeKalb County citizens will get first crack at the jobs that will be created. That's right. 4,000 jobs between now and 2015. That's a lot of jobs, okay? And so we're not only going to be monitoring the local small business enterprise piece, but we're going to be training the DeKalb County citizens and keeping a database in our Workforce Development Center. And our Director of Workforce Development, Cheryl Chapman, is in the corner. She's stand up. You are standing, right? All right. So we're going to be monitoring that as well. So that's even more good news. On the code compliance front, we've got the chairman of our CEO's task force on code compliance, Gil Turman. Thank you for your leadership. Stand up so I can recognize you. And all members of the task force, if you're here, would you stand up just so we can recognize you? We had a group of citizens come to us and say, look, we need to do a better job of enforcing our codes in DeKalb County. And so we had a series of conversations in the community, and we went out and we started, while we were gathering recommendations, we started doing work too. Throughout the month of October, we did every weekend our Great DeKalb Cleanup. We did it last year, we did it again this year. We went along major corridors and started cleaning up, taking down the signs. We have new sign ordinance. We have a new streamlined ordinance for code enforcement. But we're going to be making a major announcement about code compliance in the next few weeks and all as well. And you may not want to clap at all of this. Yeah, we're going to be using technology to identify, like satellite technology, to identify code violations in a way that has never been done in the past. Andrew's looking at me because we talked about it this afternoon, and he's rubbing his head because you didn't know I was going to talk about this today. But that's what we're going to be doing, using technology to be innovative, to do a better job of enforcing our codes. I said it, it's done, Andrew. Okay? All right. But here's the part that I need you to do. We're going to be calling on our citizens to do more as well, because we're going to reactivate our volunteer corps of code compliance officers. We're going to train citizens, and then you're going to be empowered to go out in the communities where you live and record code violations, and then through technology, submit them into the county so we can get these people cited, and through streamlined processes, get them into the system and get those violations corrected. So I hope you'll applaud for that. Let me see if there's anything I forgot. I think that is what I want to say before we go into some Q&A, but I just want to give you an overview, because sometimes, and I want you to know I appreciate you, and I want you to know that Representative Mayo, Commissioner Johnson, and myself, we know and understand how difficult it's been. We know it's been difficult on our employees. We downsized government. We've cut our spending. We've identified non-tax sources of revenues. We did raise the millage rate this year, but we had to do that in order to make sure that we had a strong bond rating. Our bond rating was at risk, and ultimately having a strong bond rating means that our tax-paying citizens are saved in the costs that they expend for county services. And Larry and I went up to New York, and we met with the folks at Moody's, and we met along with staff. We were staffed, and we went with the folks at S&P, and the folks at Moody's in return have given us a very strong bond rating, a AA1 rating on our general obligation debt. And because we're going to have to borrow the money on the front end to do the water and sewer repairs, a AA2 rating on our water and sewer system. And that's good news. And in the next few days, Commissioner, we should be hearing from S&P. So let's keep our fingers crossed. These guys had some tough questions. I mean, it was an eye-opening experience for me to go up on Wall Street and sit down face to face. These are the same folks that downgraded the U.S. government and governments all across America, local and as well as international governments. And we were sitting right in their headquarters, presenting them with information about our financial picture. And I think we did a pretty good job. So we've got good news back from Moody's, and we'll continue to push. And I'll be on the phone tomorrow morning with Standard & Poor's, by the way. And then we should hear back from them in about a week. But we want to make sure that you know that this county is well managed, that your resources, our fiscal house is in order, in the midst of some difficult situations. We haven't been able to always give our employees have gone a long time without raises. They've made a lot of sacrifices. We've had to downsize government and ask fewer people to do more work. But they're professionals, and they've stepped up. And I want you to know the kind of men and women that most of the folks standing along the walls and a few seated are the CAD County employees. And they work hard each and every day. Professionals. They're professionals. And don't always get the thank yous they deserve. So I want to say publicly, I want them to hear me say that to you, how much I appreciate them and how much they give back and what they really care about, because this is a calling. They care about making this community better. And that's why they serve. That's why they're here.